6 coordinates. Who heard about 6 coordinates? Yeah? A few people again? Yeah? Fantastic. This one here, again, another fantastic tool. All human beings need to fulfill, I said again, they must fulfill the 6 coordinates. And we're all the same. In that regard, we are all the same. This is a steering wheel for us. This is something I'm using all the time. Okay? Why? Because this one here determines pretty much the happiness and the inner peace within. Okay? Now there are 2 ways on how we can achieve 6 coordinates. Either we achieve them very unresourcefully, which means we can obtain it, the feeling, but we cannot sustain it. It's not an ongoing thing. It will not work over time. Unresourceful. What we're looking for is a resourceful way where we say, alright, we can obtain those needs and we can sustain them as well all the way through. Yeah? And that's what we're looking for. Now the first one, you're going to love it. Certainty. Don't we love certainty? All of us. What do you understand under certainty? What is certainty?
Outside the comfort zone.
Yeah, comfort zone, yeah, exactly, comfort zone. It feels good, I know what it is, I experienced it before. The certainty you have in your regular environment because you know exactly where everything is. Yeah? So people who love certainty quite often, they like to stay at home. Yeah? And these are patterns, it's just a very simple example, but these are patterns in your life where you start to realize, oh, that's me. Now I understand why I like to be at home, why I don't really like to go out overseas or travel and all those things. Yeah? What else do you understand under certainty? Yeah. Control, yes. Control of the environment. Control of the partner, control of the kids, control of the mother and father-in-law. Alright? There's some reaction there. What we're talking about here quite often, and that is a very unresourceful way, it is about the control and the certainty external. How stupid is she? I told her 3 times and she just doesn't get it. Yeah? That's the outcome. Unresourceful. Because you try, and I deliberately use the word try, you try to control the external. You can't. The person who is apparently stupid cannot do what you want to do because they don't have the same thinking. They don't have the same decision-making skills, knowledge, they have a different environment, everything is different. So assuming that the people externally should do what you expect them to do, it's an illusion. That's where we go into ego land, where we try to place our ego, where we have power, false power of the external environment. How much certainty do we have with North Korea putting some nuclear weapons up on the border as we speak? Really? So what is that certainty all about? What is a resourceful certainty? What is it that we can really control?
Our thoughts, our decisions.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It must be an internal thing. Yeah. I actually say there's only 2 things you can really control. 2 things where you have really certainty in. It's the meaning you give to what's happening in your life, how you interpret experience and stuff which comes your way with the 5 senses. That's the one certainty. And how you're going to respond towards. That's the only 2 things where you have certainty. Well, some people say, yeah, you have to die, that's a certainty as well. Yes, fair enough, that's out of our hands. But the certainty where you can control, that's the 2 things. And that's a big one. Yeah? So really, how do you interpret the situation? If somebody comes along and they annoy you, they make you angry, they make you sad, how easy to blame the other person, or you make me angry. How can that person make you angry? Is it not your choice where you say, alright, I will interpret her to make me angry, so therefore I have an excuse and I can blame her for the whole thing? Yeah, I know that's a big one to swallow. But that is the certainty within you. Let's try it out. If you're mean to me or whatever, and you tell me something, I have the choice to say, you're really pissing me off, Mason. This is outrageous. Or I can say, you know what, yeah, I don't really like that. That annoys me. Or I could say, that's not very nice. That's okay. Or I can say, that really tickles my small toe.
That makes you happy.
Well, is that my problem? But do you see how it works? Beautiful. Beautiful say. Do you see how it works? Because we choose, and that's where the power is. We decide what emotion we want to accept. The emotion is not just coming to us. They're not like, oh, here it is, and I don't have choice. No. We go towards and pick the emotion we want to feel.
How do you do that? But when you've got someone who is aggressive or something in your face, and your brain goes to that fight or flight response straight away, and you make that for want of a better word, unconscious choice.
Yeah.
How do you find
Fight or flight?
time to think like you just thought, like, that's all right, that just tickles my little toe. You know what I mean? Like to come up with that.
Look, fight or flight mechanism, that's reptile brain. That goes back very far. I believe we don't really need that often anymore. Of course, there's extreme situations, somebody comes with a knife or whatever. If you can, there's adrenaline coming in and, you respond. The thing is with the fight or flight mechanism, that is an instinct, and the instinct works faster than your human brain. That's where the saying comes in. If you're upset or angry, don't say anything, wait 3 seconds, and then you talk. There's a reason why those sayings are around. Yeah? Because sometimes you say something right away, flight or flight mechanism, like, oh, why did I say that? Yeah? But again, it's a control of your thoughts. Maybe not the push or the reaction, that is reptile brain kind of thing. But what you say, you can control it. And I know there's a concept, if you haven't been there for a while perhaps, where you felt at the effect, I'm affected by everything else, and it's because of them, that's who I am. Versus, no, I'm going to cause things to happen, and I decide therefore, and I take 100% responsibility. That's the opposite. And that can be easily learned with getting awareness and using those tools. You see, when I say, who do you want to become when you walk out of the room? I'm not asking you to become another person. That's the last thing I want to do. I just want you to give some tools where you can say, you know what, I want to become a better person, a better version of myself, which works for you. Where you're happy with yourself, where you can look in the mirror and say, you know what, dude, I actually like what I see. Yeah? That's all there is. And yes, it's not about being perfect. It's just about simply respecting yourself for who you are, knowing your weaknesses, but working on it and growth. That's all there is. And again, these are small changes. As more you're using those tools where you say, hang on, no, what did I learn? No, it's my choice if I want to get upset or if I want to make fun or even laugh. I'm sure you had some situation where it's like, oh, you just can't. You just have to laugh. Maybe because the other guy's like, yeah? You like that one. That's body language, that's how powerful it is. Yeah? Somebody says something wrong, you're like, and you think, what are you going to do? Like, alright, let's make fun of it. And the other person starts to laugh. Of course, we have an influential way. We influence people all the time. That's what we do. But we want to influence them in a positive way. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Okay? So really it's certainly, and I have to say it again, the two things which we really have certainty within ourselves, pretty much, how do we gonna interpret what's happened to us, and therefore how do we gonna respond to it? That is the certainty within yourself. And when you do that, when you don't have to rely on external certainty anymore, how tiring is it to control the partner, whoever it is?
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting, it is, and that's exactly, it's unresourceful, because yes, you get a sense of, yes, I can do it from time to time, but there's so much disappointment. And what is disappointment? Disappointment is nothing else than the gap between expectation and reality. Think about it. This is what I expect, this is what really happens, and the difference is the disappointment. So as more you expect, as more you get disappointed quite often.
Yeah. An endless struggle.
Exactly.
It never ends. He's never actually end up changing anything. Or he's
There
trying
are
to.
all those kind of things which is just
Temporarily
unsustainable.
influence, but
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's certainty. The next one.
Sorry, Martin, can you just repeat those two things that we can...
Okay. The two things is
So how are we going
the
to
certainty
interpret?
about how you interpret what's happened to you in your life. So you're exposed to a situation. And you're exposed to situations all the time. Yeah. If you tell me something as an example, how do I look at, I think, why does Cleo wants to tell me that? Does she want to piss me off? Does she want to make me laugh? Does she want to make me angry, sad? It doesn't really matter. I decide what I want to give, what meaning I want to give to what you've done, or what you said. It's the meaning. Yeah? And the meaning you give then creates the response towards it. How do you respond if you are in a negative emotion? Poorly. Quite often you take, mirroring, you take on the other person's kind of aggressiveness or whatever it is, which you reflect, by the way, on them, and that's something you're going to go into as well. You match the person. Screaming, a bit more screaming, a bit more screaming, it goes out of hand. So the question is, coming back to the why before, the question is, how does that assist you? How does that going to support you with getting the outcome? Does it actually move you towards, or does it actually move you away from what you want? And if your answer is it actually moves me away by getting angry, I just need to say, why are you doing it then? Why would you? And by the way, if you're doing that, that's called self-sabotage. Yeah. Good. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Now the next one, you're going to love it as well. It's the opposite. It's variety. It's uncertainty. How much do we love uncertainty? That's where it gets a bit of, really? Certainty, marketing, by the way, huge. You buy certainty all the time. Yeah, money back guarantee, all that stuff. You go to the supermarket, you buy $5, whatever. If you don't like it, you can bring it back. Do you really go back for the $5, whatever it is? Really? Petrol costs you more to get there any time. But you're buying it because you have certainty that if you don't like it, then you can bring it back. Yeah, huge marketing tool. Yeah. Now variety is a bit of a different story, adventure. You know, getting that kick of what am I going to get out of it? Who likes variety? Yes? More and more? Did that just recently came in a bit more, or is that always the case?
More and more.
More and more. And why do you like variety so much, or more and more?
Because I'm actually more certain in myself.
Beautifully said. Because if you have more certainty within yourself, where you can go out and say, you know what, it doesn't matter what's happened to me, I know I can deal with it. Where you give it a meaning and say, you know what, it does happen to me, not because I'm the victim and self-pity, it's actually happened to me because I do have the resources to deal with it. Because it happens to me and I see that as an opportunity to grow even more. because you have that certainty within yourself. How does that sound? Yeah, I see a few people start to think and a bit of smoke going up there. Yeah,
It's empowering.
it is. It is. And that is such a simple tool again, isn't it? 6 callings, we only went through and we had so many aha moments like, whoa, I think we're not here. Yeah. So let's think about this one here. The 2 is so important that we have a good balance, whatever that means to you. Yeah. Some people do like a bit more variety and a bit less certainty or the other way around. That's fine as long as it feels right for you. It doesn't mean 50-50. It feels right, balanced for you. Yeah. What's happened if you have too much certainty? You get bored. And what's the next stage of boredom? Depression. This is in the morning when you wake up and say, really, I can't be bothered to get out of bed because it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. So, depression actually, I think it's overrated because it's actually easy to fix with that knowledge. And I know it's, the most important thing is that step into the unknown and say, yes, I know, it doesn't feel good, it's a bit unfamiliar, but I know that this is the answer to get out of my depression. It's just the momentum to actually do it. That's all it is. Yeah? What's happened if you have too much variety? Say again. Insecure, yes. And when you're insecure, what's happened then? Overwhelmed.
You also like that, like you said earlier, that ability to be grounded because there is no stability because everything is changing all the time. You've got nothing to associate with it.
I hear a lot of negative beliefs in there, but tell me if I'm wrong. But the grounding is here we get here, yes. Yeah. Now, you're right in the sense of, I don't know what's happened here anymore. It's like, is it not when we have everything really close in front of our eyes, we can't see everything?
Yeah.
Everything is oversized, it's too colorful, it's too noisy, it's, yeah, body language like, oh, overwhelm, anxiety, that's the outcome. Yeah. Both of them are not really good, and that's why it's so important that quality number 1 and quality number 2 are in balance. Yeah. I quite often share that story with Nadia, with my daughter, because my back before I came across the 6 colonies, she was only a few weeks, 18 months old, and Mom just wanted to go to the milk shop quickly. She was asleep, said, I'm back in 10 minutes. I said, oh, I'm fine. Of course, as soon as Mom left, here I am. You kind of down and like, really? Can you just stop? It didn't work. The mom said it didn't work. It just didn't. And I really thought I tried everything to stop her crying, and it just didn't work. Now I went into anxiety a bit, and I was like, I was almost scared about myself, to be honest. And I just didn't know what to do. And I put her on the floor in the living room, and I went to the kitchen and did some dishes. And I was beating myself up for a long time. I was like, seriously, what for the damn are you? Your daughter is screaming, you put her on the floor and you do the dishes. Okay? How does that work? Did that little bugger not create way too much uncertainty for me? Way too much variety? Oh yeah, she did, I tell you what, and I love her dearly, but I tell you what, at that time. Yeah? So what did my unconscious mind tell me to do? Yes, it's like, go do something which you've done hundreds or thousands of times before and get some control, get some certainty back in your life. And I was actually quite glad I did the dishes because I could have done way more unresourceful things than that. Yeah? So really, This explains so many things, why you're doing the things you do, and why you're not doing the things which you actually know you should do. Yeah? So really, the uncertainty also is actually where the growth happens. It's a very important thing. Yeah? And see, do you see the marketing aspect in that as well? People want to sell you a kind of certainty. Yeah? The certainty that you learn a lot in that workshop. Yeah? The certainty that we have a safe environment and that you're going to learn a lot of things which helps you. What would you do if I put on my marketing flyer, come and embrace uncertainty? You would say, no, thank you. Yeah? But actually that's what I'm saying to you.
And what if you added that it would be one hell of an adventure? If you actually said that, then added to that, and it would be one hell of an adventure, your mind would be thinking, what the hell, you know, you'd be working overtime.
Yes, yes. And quite often in marketing, that's what they say, you know. You tell, what do they say? You give to people what they want, but then you teach them what they need. And maybe not everybody agrees with that, but quite often that's the concept. They give you what you want, and then they feed you what you really need. And quite often what we actually walk away, what we like to distance ourselves from, is exactly what we need. How many people do you have in your environment, in your family, in your social environment, where you think, oh really, I just don't like that person? At work, quite often, you just can't work with somebody and you think, seriously, she really or he really drives me nuts. Yeah? These are actually the people you should attract. These are the people you can actually learn most of it. Because there's a reason why they can push your buttons. And by pushing your buttons is actually, this is the unresolved part within you which needs to be answered, which needs to be worked on to become a better person. Hanging out with like-minded people, it's great, but how much do you learn? That's where you feel comfortable because you have that sense of belonging. Yeah? The sense of not being judged. But how much do you really grow? That's the question. So the question is, how much do you want to grow? How much do you want to learn about yourself? And how much do you want uncertainty? Or how comfortable do you want to feel with uncertainty? And that's exactly what's happened. As more you're dealing with uncertainty, as more comfortable it starts to feel. And that's exactly the growth, because this part is big, uncertainty, there's a lot. Ooh, cookies. Now the attention is gone. Uncertainty.
I didn't until you mentioned it.
That's how powerful language is. Uncertainty, it's quite big. Yeah? As more you're doing the things which you're not usually doing, in the beginning it feels not really good. As more you're doing it, it becomes your certainty. Driving a car. First time in the car, like steering wheel, gear, indicator, brakes, accelerator, you don't even know what to do. Today, you're just doing it. It just happens. You have to go through the uncertainty, can I do it or not, to actually expand that certainty. That's pretty much what it is. Significance. We're just running a bit over time. I hope that's fine with you. Doesn't take any long, and then we're going to have a break after the 6 quarters. That's fine, yeah? Significance. Who likes to feel significant? Everybody does. Of course, it's all the human core needs. We all do. Yeah? So how do you get your significance? That's the big question here. Are you getting your significance through giving or through getting or getting it on your own? What I mean by that is, who likes to give gifts to other people? That's
Gifts of all sorts of things, like gifts, service and attention.
absolutely, and that's well said. It's not always about the gift under the Christmas tree. The gift of helping people, the gift of connecting with people, the gift in so many different ways. Yeah?
You get the strongest.
So many different ways. Yeah? the question you need to ask yourself, how well are you with receiving these things? Or are you one of these people who say, oh no, that's not such a good thing. Don't worry. Yeah? Quite often we do, because again it comes down to our self-esteem, it comes down to perhaps not feeling worthy. Playing down, as you said, Phil, before, beautifully, at the beginning actually, I said, with I am sorry, where you put yourself lower. So how can you accept a gift from somebody up here if you feel that you're by far not equal to that person? I must not touch me. No, I was not. No, I don't want it. But that's actually selfish, believe it or not. Why am I saying that? Because significance. Why do you give? Is it not a selfishness, a beautiful selfishness, don't get me wrong. Is it not a beautiful selfishness to see kids unwrapping that gift under the Christmas tree? The smile on their face and the sparkle in their eyes?
Something nice than having someone receive what you want to give them.
Yes. So we get a lot of significance by giving to people, and that's okay. That is a beautiful thing. But we're doing it out of selfishness in one way, we're doing it to fulfill our needs. So think about that concept. So what does that mean if you reject gifts from other people?
I mean, you reject a lot of things in life as well. People want to give you all who's coming your way.
That's right.
You reject significance.
And you reject, that's a really big one, you reject for the other people to be able to feel significant.
You're diminishing their value.
Because it's not about you, it's about them. Well, actually, it is about you. It's all about you. Yeah? But that's not where it's supposed to stop. It is only about you that you can go out there to do even better things, to do even more things for the greater good. But if it's not about you, how can you give? Yeah? How can you? That's what I had to learn as well when I became a parent. It's all about the kids. Really? For a while, until you burned out and you're like walking out. How resourceful is that? It needs to be about you for you first, not that it stops there. Not that selfishness, I'm not talking about that. It needs to be about you so you feel better, you have high energy, you have a clear vision for the family, for every individual one, because you're the protector, the nurturer, the hunter, the giver, the provider, all that stuff. To do all of that stuff. Yeah?
To give to others too. If you don't have it within yourself, how are you supposed to give it to them?
Exactly. So how can I be a good dad? How can I be a good role model to my kids if I'm exhausted and burned out and like leave me alone and go to your room? You can't. Yeah? So hopefully that gives you also a bit of a twist on the selfishness. Because quite often we attach a lot of negativity to selfishness. And if it stops there, yes, then it's very negative. Yeah? But if, as I said, if you're using the energy then to give, that's where the energy starts to flow. Really up. So significance. Again, coming to the workshop and to what we discussed in certainty. What's happened to all these people at work when they say, oh, he's stupid, and why is he doing all that stuff? I can do it so much better. What does that presuppose? Are these the people who kind of are getting of significance, where they need to do those crazy things and say, hey man, really, seriously, what are you doing? How stupid are you? What it presupposes, and you're not, by the way, but what it presupposes is, you are so much lower than me, so what they really say to you is, I need significance. And please, can somebody tell me that I'm good? And nobody does it because they are so outgoing and tell everybody else how bad they are. And that's where they cut the cord again. That's where the energy doesn't flow. Why? Because the fourth one is love and connection. How much love and connection do you going to have to somebody in the work which tells you that you're stupid? No, you're going to walk away. So these guys here, who are gathered of significance, guess what? They cannot process to the next level. That's quite often where relationship issue starts. People don't want to connect with them anymore because they are together, rather than saying, hey, you've done such a wonderful job. And if they haven't, that's fine, you can tell them as well, but with respect, with dignity, with the tools to do it better the next time. Because when you give, your dream is taken care of. If you give, you will receive. Yeah? So love and connection again, very important. Of course, this is what it's all about. And quite often people who are coming from the head, people who make sense out of everything, they quite often have a bit of a struggle to experience love and connection. Talking about NLP, quite often what's happening, and I know I've generalized here a bit, and that's what we do, quite often if you were hurt in the past, you may have a bad breakup with an ex-girlfriend, with your first love, whatever it is, and it did hurt so much, what are you doing? You're closing that part here off, and you say, from now on, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure I'm not going to get hurt again. So what's the easiest way? Everything starts to make sense, or must make sense. So emotionally, nothing's going to happen. Emotionally, you cut off, and everything needs to make sense. That doesn't make sense. No, I need more information. How do you get from A to C? You haven't explained what that B is. Yeah? Quite often in business, we see that. Bullet points. Everything needs to make sense. According to our discussion yesterday on the 12th of 15th, I'll send you an email, please see attachment. Yeah. Bullet point 1, make sure. Yeah. Step 2, yeah. I'll see you tomorrow at 3:15. Sharp, don't be late. Yeah. Bang, bang, bang. There's no emotions in, everything needs to make sense. That's where the 10% comes in, to dictate your life, especially at the workplace. And the spiritual needs, there's a bit of personal needs. I haven't really addressed that yet, but the personal needs is the 4 levels first, and then the spiritual need is the growth and the contribution. We spoke about growth and contribution again. It is about contributing. Once your needs are fulfilled, it's about contributing. Because again, how much significance, how much connection do you get by contributing? And they start to flow together. Yeah. Now, what they also say is, if you're actually running a strategy and you fulfill 3 of the 6 core needs by a strategy, no matter how bad it is, you become addicted. How's that? In other words, I'll give you an example. In other words, you have a relationship. You're married for 20 years. You're going to work in the morning, you're doing your thing, you're coming home, you haven't been, you put the kids to bed, you collapse on the couch, you're sleeping on the couch, at 11 o'clock you go to bed, day in, day out. Almost every year you're having way too much. Yeah? And then one or the other one starts to fight, pick a fight. Out of the blue, wham! And the partner thinks, whoa, where does that come from? You have no idea. Where does it come from? Is that an uncertainty? Is that not a way of creating uncertainty? Because you have no idea what's going to happen if you pick a fight. You're going to scream at each other? Is somebody going to walk out? Do you risk the whole relationship in 20 years of marriage? Or are you going to have hot sex? Oh, you want to say that? But do you see that? Do you? I did that. Do you see? Don't you love it? But do you see the variety in it? Is it resourceful?
No.
Not really.
And if you get to that part.
I was waiting for that. You need a bit of a mic.
Thank you. That's distracted.
But you're risking a lot. You're risking way too much. And yes, maybe the first, the second, and the third time you may going to get up with the last thing which I just mentioned before. Yeah? But maybe the 5th or the 6th time, the partner's packing the bags, you know what, I had enough.
Sort of switches into that certainty mode, because if we argue, this is going to keep
Well, that's the whole thing.
nothing's going to get resolved.
That's where the whole thing collapses. Yeah. How much significance does the partner get if the partner picks a fight? I'm sure they're going to even switch off the cricket or the AFL game or whatever it is. Yeah. Oh, honey, what's happened? How much connection? Eye contact? Please tell me. What's going on? Yeah, I'll do everything, but it's kind of... So you have uncertainty, you have significance, you have connection, bang. With a very unresourceful strategy, which is picking a fight out of the blue. Yeah? And you always have something to pick up. Yeah? That's the certainty, by the way. You have the certainty that you will always find something where you can pick up. So you actually fulfill 4 needs. Growth? No, not really. Contribution? Depends on how you look at it. But 4 core needs fulfilled with such a negative impact. So as we said, people get addicted by covering 3 core needs. In other words, if that worked one day, it will happen again. Unless you are clear about those 6 core needs, and that's what I'm so passionate about. Very simple, straightforward. If you know what's happened within you, within the relationship, within your workplace, whatever you do, there can be applied to anything in your life. Finance, everything. Yeah? Then you have awareness and you have the choice and you have the tools to say, let's use that to change it from an unresourceful way to a resourceful way. So how could you do that to make sure that the partner doesn't pick a fight anymore?
Be grounded,
Yep.
not run the same strategy.
Yeah. So you're breaking the strategy. So you're saying you keep watching television.
No, what I'm saying is if, someone comes up and,
Pick a fight first.
yeah.
I love it, it's good.
Oh, happy
I love it.
No, if someone's coming up and they're like, okay, well, what the hell happened? And they're steaming, they're shitting, pissed off and stuff. Instead of going, well, it wasn't my fault, and making the situation worse, what you do is, okay, well, what are you really trying to say? Like, just be grounded, be calm, be cool,
Not buying
collected,
into the
and don't buy
strategy,
into the
exactly.
story. And
Yes.
just say, okay, well, let's just take a step back for a second, and what is this really about?
Yeah.
Instead of going, yeah, but you said me, and yeah.
So what could you do as well even more to getting into that point?
Take sugar.
Well, that
So,
choice of
so
how
you
you
leave
react.
before he starts to pick a fight.
No, it just, well, if your needs are met resourcefully in the first place, you wouldn't need to seek unresourceful methods to fulfill them.
You could, like in the scenario that you used about coming home from the kids to bed, get one on the couch, etc.
Oh, okay, yeah, just
One person could introduce something else, and instead of sitting there on the TV, in front of the TV falling asleep, play a board game together or do a puzzle together or something that brings that connection in, that brings that level of uncertainty or variety, and it breaks the boredom, it breaks that.
well said, very well said. So really, yes.
Communication's the major thing.
Yeah.
Because, ideally, you both understand all of exactly that sort of thing. So you've both been in LP seminars and you both recognise the requirement you have to look out for it. But for everybody, it's just no communication. Or talking something when it bothers you, you talk. That's it.
And
So it
being
never
proactive.
escalates.
Being
Be
proactive
proactive.
rather than reacting to it.
Absolutely.
So how can
Make
we
a
be
point,
proactive
choose
to
to
make
react.
sure that the partner doesn't think to pick a fight in the first place?
Well, realise you're irritating the hell out of it by sitting on
Yes.
television all the time and do something
Yes.
different.
Which
Because
is,
you'll know
is-
long before she blows up that you're doing something wrong.
which is, and you see again,
Well,
we need
it's
to be
a
very
perception.
clear on the outcome.
Perception.
What could you do? Because as long as we don't know what else we could do, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
We need to be very clear on
Look
the
on what
outcome.
you want, yeah.
So what could you do?
Clean the house.
That sounds like a very
that needs-
specific sort of
That needs to be done as well. But if you have done that so many times, that may become things you like to do as a couple, where you create
I was with you
a
until
new
then.
beginning. Say again. Say again.
I was with you until you said you had to do it with this other person.
As a couple.
Yeah.
Swinging.
But you can do that even for yourself as an example as well.
Part of
Like
like
our
profound
thinking.
thinking.
Yes, because quite often, and it is profound, I love that.
Good word.
Profound.
Say it again, Martin.
You forgot my second word.
The unconscious mind likes to read, isn't it?
Martin, you forgot my second word.
Does love
Profound
it.
thinking. Keep thinking outside the square.
Yes. But it's only outside the square because you may haven't done it for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah? So it's very important to start something new. It's spring. We're going through spring, autumn, summer, winter, the whole thing. Not in that sequence, but we're going through the whole year, even in a relationship. Yeah? So in winter we're reflecting. That's quite often when the fight comes in. Because we had exciting times. We had the honeymoon period. We had planted new seeds. Some seeds are growing, some are not. We're harvesting in autumn. Winter, nothing happens. We have a lot of time to think. Is that it? Are we going to continue the next 20, 40 years like that? Or what could we plant new? So you're going into another cycle. Yeah? Rather than just staying in winter. And that's very important, and that's quite often where the 7th year comes in. Quite often where the relationship breaks. That's the rate, the highest rate, 7 years and then 15 years again. It's interesting, very interesting. Yeah. So you may want to have a date night, or you may want to go to the bedroom right away. You can have a lot. We don't want to get there, but you're going to have a lot of variety in there as well, guys. And it applies, just to be clear, it applies as well with yourself, because you also have a relationship with yourself. And are you not sometimes bored with yourself and you think, really, it's just like... That's why sometimes you have a different haircut, a bit of different makeup, a bit of whatever it is, you like to change your appearance because maybe you need to have some variety in
Yeah,
your
I
life.
love that option. So you have a different haircut.
I don't really have a choice. Yeah. But you need to have sometimes change, especially after a big experience. Where you say, no, I don't want to have that, because looking in the mirror and seeing yourself as the same person reflects on what the past has happened. So you start to live in the past, rather than say, you know what, I changed my appearance, to me it's like a new thing. Yeah? What do actors do if they go into a new role?
Change the whole life, all that time.
Yes. And the first thing they do is apparently they change the shoes. Because the shoes is your identity, the shoes tells you a lot about who you are. Yeah? So changing the shoes, slipping into the shoes of the character they need to play, gives them a sense who the person is. And yes, I agree, they change the environment, everything.
A lot of girls are very confused. They are, is that right? Is that true?
Perhaps they
Sorry,
are.
is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that female quite often have more identities than we have as a man. And it's very interesting, it's really good thinking. There's a reason for everything. It's amazing. Yeah. Just to finish it off, and then we have some cookies.
Very excited.
Everybody's excited about the cookies.
Almost.
I guess
It's
it's
not
funny.
as much as you are, mate.
Stones. Yeah. And this is very important, you might need to write that down. That's really important. If you can fulfill all 6 core needs with your partner, with your employees, whoever you have in your life, with your social partner, with your friends or whatever, guess what? They will never ever leave you.